It's not finished yet.
U.S. aircraft carrier is now headed.
So they can never hide behind these things to get.
What do you mean as a state sponsor of terrorism?
3,554. That is how many targets the President of the United States says are still left to destroy inside Iran. He announced it last Friday, casually, at a business summit in Miami Beach, while wearing a suit and holding a microphone. Pretty quickly, those are the words the president used, as if he were describing a home renovation project, not a war. Today we're going to do something no other channel has done. We're going to open that list. We're going to show you exactly what those 3,554 targets are, what has already been hit, what's still standing, and what happens to Iran and to the rest of the world if Trump actually hits them all. To understand what 3,554 targets means, you first need to understand what's already been destroyed. It has been 29 days since Operation Epic Fury began on February 28, 2026. In those 29 days, according to U.S. Admiral Brad Cooper, the United States military has struck more than 8,000 Iranian military targets, including 130 naval vessels. According to U.S. Central Command, in just the first 10 days alone, over 5,000 targets were struck and 50 Iranian vessels damaged or destroyed. The strikes have fallen into 5 main categories. First, leadership and command. The Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei was killed on day 1. Dozens of IRGC generals and naval commanders have been assassinated. The IRGC Joint Staff Headquarters was destroyed. Second, ballistic missiles. Every known missile production site, storage facility, and launch pad that the US and Israel could find has been targeted. Iran's missile attacks have dropped 90% from day 1 levels. Third, the Navy. Iran's entire naval fleet has been the target of relentless strikes. 9 warships sunk, 50 vessels damaged. The IRGC Navy commander was killed just 3 days ago. Fourth, nuclear infrastructure. The Fordo enrichment plant, the Natanz facility, the Bushehr nuclear power plant, hit 3 separate times. The Yazd yellowcake production plant, struck last Friday, and the Arak heavy water reactor. And fifth, what analysts call hyperlocal security infrastructure. The Basiji paramilitary headquarters, domestic police HQs, internal security facilities. About 30% of all strikes have targeted the regime's ability to control its own population. So 8,000 targets have been hit. The US says Iran's military has been severely degraded. And yet, Iran is still firing missiles every single day, which brings us back to those 3,554 remaining targets. Trump didn't specify what the 3,554 targets are. The Pentagon hasn't released the full list, but based on what analysts, military researchers, and intelligence assessments have published, we can piece together what's still on the target list. Category 1. Energy infrastructure. This is the big one. Trump has paused strikes on Iran's power plants until April 6th, giving Iran a deadline to open the Strait of Hormuz. If that deadline passes without a deal, the Damavand combined cycle power plant, Iran's largest, is expected to be first. Then, the Karg Island oil terminal, which handles 90% of Iran's oil exports. Category 2. Remaining nuclear sites. Despite hitting Fordow, Natanz, Bushehr, Yazd, and Arak, analysts say Iran still has underground enrichment facilities that haven't been destroyed, including the Talagan compound near Tehran, a site used to develop advanced explosives. Category 3. Remaining IRGC infrastructure. While dozens of IRGC generals have been killed, the IRGC has 190,000 active personnel. Its regional commands, training bases, and weapons depots across Iran's 31 provinces represent thousands of individual targets. Category 4. Industrial targets. Last Friday, Israel bombed Iran's 2 largest steel factories, the Khuzestan Steel Facility and Mobaraka Steel Complex in Isfahan. 2 IRGC-linked facilities. More industrial sites tied to Iran's military-industrial complex are on the list. And Category 5, the most controversial. What Trump has called regime infrastructure. Historical sites, universities, cultural centers. The US and Israel have already damaged at least 120 museums and historical sites across Iran. Iran's parliament has called some of these war crimes. Here's the part of this story that isn't getting enough attention. What does Iran do if Trump hits those 3,554 targets? Iran has already told us. The IRGC has published an explicit list of targets it will hit in retaliation if Trump strikes the power plants. And it goes far beyond anything we've seen in the first 29 days of this war. First, Gulf desalination plants. Saudi Arabia, UAE, Kuwait, Qatar all depend on desalinated water. Iran has threatened to hit these facilities, which would cause a water crisis for 50 million people within weeks. Second, U.S. Treasury bonds. Iran's Speaker of Parliament posted on X, and this is a direct quote. Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, Iran's Speaker of Parliament. U.S. Treasury bonds are soaked in Iranians' blood. Purchase them, and you purchase a strike on your HQ and assets. We monitor your portfolios. This is your final notice. Iran holds no U.S. treasuries directly, but this threat was aimed at Middle Eastern sovereign wealth funds and large holders like Berkshire Hathaway, who have significant investments in the region. Third, hotels housing U.S. soldiers. The IRGC posted this warning just 2 days ago. We recommend that you urgently leave locations where American forces are stationed. And here's the wild card nobody is talking about. Iran has lowered the IRGC recruitment age to 12 and claims to have over 1 million fighters mobilized. Even if those numbers are propaganda, a war of attrition with a country of 90 million people motivated by national survival looks very different from a bombing campaign. There's one category of remaining targets that could change everything, and it's the one that the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, has been warning about since day one. Bushehr nuclear power plant has been hit 3 times. 3 times. The IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi has expressed what he calls deep concern and called for maximum military restraint, specifically to avoid the risk of a nuclear accident. Now, here's what a nuclear accident at Bushehr would mean. The plant sits on the Persian Gulf coast. Prevailing winds blow east toward Pakistan, India, and Central Asia, countries with a combined population of 2 billion people. A Chernobyl-scale event in that location would not stay contained to Iran, and Iran hasn't been passive. On the day that Natanz was struck, Iran launched 2 ballistic missiles at Israel's Dimona, home to Israel's own nuclear research facility. Iran said it was a direct response, 2 nuclear-adjacent facilities targeted. In a war where neither side has officially called it a war, Trump calls it a military conflict for legal reasons, both sides are now dancing dangerously close to a line that, once crossed, cannot be uncrossed. Let's bring this back to what it means for you in America. Oil is at $107 a barrel, up 45% since February 28th. That's in your gas tank. That's in the price of everything at the grocery store. The World Food Program has warned that this war could push the number of food-insecure people globally to 363 million, up from 318 million before the war. Stock markets have had their worst 5-week stretch in nearly 4 years. U.S. debt is under pressure. $10 trillion in U.S. bonds must be rolled over this year. And Iran just threatened the people buying those bonds. And the most important question, is any of this working? Iran has absorbed 8,000 strikes. It has lost its supreme leader, its Navy commander, and dozens of generals, and it is still firing missiles every single day. Military analyst Clyonad Raleigh from ACLED said it plainly, Clyonad Raleigh, ACLED founder. There's no question that the air attacks have been monumentally successful in debilitating Iran's missile strike ability. That said, all the other considerations mean that we're looking at a very long war of attrition in which Iran can stay an active member. A long war of attrition. And Trump says there are 3,554 targets left. April 6th is the next deadline. If Iran hasn't fully opened the Strait of Hormuz by 8 p.m. Eastern Time, Trump has said he will begin striking energy plants. Iran says the strait will not return to pre-war conditions. Iran says it is not in talks. Trump says talks are going very well. Someone is lying. And on April 6th, we find out who. In the next video, we're going to cover exactly what happens to the global economy the day Trump hits Iran's largest power plant, and why the biggest losers might not be Iran at all. Subscribe now. It drops this week. I'll see you in the next one.